Welcome to the OK Not OK podcast. I'm Dr. OK, and you know what time it is. We're back for our OK question of the week. And it's been a while. We missed a week for those weddings, so there's plenty of options out there. So let's hear what you have to say, SportsZu. Doc, so main event Jey Uso lost the IC title while we were away. Then he cost the Bloodline the tag team titles. And now he's going back to SmackDown to speak to Roman Reigns. What do you think of all of Jey's drama? SportsZu, I'm glad you brought that up because we did not get to talk about the IC title change, but you are completely wrong. It was Jey Uso who cost Jey Uso the IC championship, as it is obvious that Solo Sikoa brought the entire Bloodline there to help Jey. He even said it himself several times. There's no reason not to believe that, as Solo didn't do anything except watch the match until after Jey Uso was the one that attacked all 4 members of the Bloodline. So let's take a look back at what happened here after Sikoa appeared to show himself to Jey and told him that he was in fact there to help him. It was a few moments later that Jey was on the other side of the ring, and Tonga Loa there was just to cheer him on and help him out, but Jey immediately super kicked Tonga Loa. Well, that wasn't very nice. So of course Tama Tonga had to get involved, so he jumped the barricade so that Jey Uso could super kick him as well. So yeah, that's 2 Bloodline members down. So when Sikoa came over the barricade himself to talk to Jey to try to get his head on straight, again saying that he was just there to help, it was Braun Breaker who went for that vicious running spear, but Sikoa, being the better man, pushed Jey out of the way and took that bullet himself. Wow, what a guy that Solo is to take that spear. That spear has taken out a lot of guys here recently. So that was just really magnanimous of the tribal chief. Only at that point did Jacob Fatu get involved, as he jumped the barricade as well, but it was for a stare down on Braun Breaker for taking out the tribal chief. But apparently Jey did not think that was good enough, because he decided to land a suicide dive on both Breaker and Fatu at the same time, which was enough to give Jey the opening to try an Uso splash to win the match. And even though Breaker was able to get the knees up, Jey still had the momentum, and he landed 2 super kicks and a spear. That somehow was not enough to get the pin. So when Breaker rolled out of the ring, Jey went for a running spear of his own. Only at that point had Fatu had enough, and he super kicked Jey. And of course, the rest is history from there. Breaker got a spear and the win to become a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. But again, the main point here is not what the Bloodline did to Jey Uso. It's what Jey Uso did to the Bloodline. Again, it was Jey who attacked all 4 members of the Bloodline first, before Jey got hit with that super kick from Jacob Fatu. So once the tribal chief was down, Fatu, as his protector, had to stop Jey with the super kick. So that takes us 3 days later to Friday Night SmackDown. But before we talk about that specifically, just remember first that on Monday Night Raw, Jey said that he hadn't seen Jimmy since WrestleMania, when those 2 fought each other on Saturday night, and then Jey took out Jimmy in the main event on Sunday night. And then 1 week before that, on the prior SmackDown, it was Jey who told Roman Reigns no yeet, so he clearly did not want to get involved with Roman Reigns. But that takes us to SmackDown, as the MCMG won the #1 contenders match, and then Solo and the rest of the Bloodline came out to challenge the Machine Guns right there on the spot. And even though some may not have liked that tactic, there was nothing wrong with requesting that. In fact, it was a pretty smart move by the tribal chief, as a way for the Bloodline to ensure that they would remain tag team champions. And of course, the Machine Guns fell hook, line, and sinker for that beautiful plot of solos. And the Bloodline seemed to have this one mostly under control until Jimmy came out of the crowd wearing his patented black hoodie and pushed Solo into the ring post. So of course, after Fatu and Sikoa double-teamed Jimmy, yeah, Roman Reigns finally showed up for SmackDown, and he came out, and it was then a stalemate as all four of them fought their way up the ramp and backstage. Surely at that point it made sense for Tama Tonga to be completely thrown off his game, and yeah, we do not condone him grabbing the ref and then using the ref as a shield. So that was bad. We don't have anything good to say about that. In fact, I gave him a 2-week suspension for that, so clearly we are not allowing that kind of behavior. But that said, it makes sense that both Tonga and Loa were thrown off by Jimmy's distraction. So you can almost understand it when Tonga Loa hit that spine buster on Sabin and then went to grab the steel chairs. They just wanted to get out of there at that point. They were fine taking that DQ loss and just retaining the titles. But apparently that was not good enough for an incensed and enraged Jey Uso to then take out both Loa and Tonga with super kicks and chair shots. And honestly folks, Jey Uso had to be a very vengeful man at that point. Wow, he was really off of his rocker for losing that IC title, because just think about this. He had to wait 3 whole days. Did he stay in Philly for 3 days? Did he go straight to Brooklyn and hang out for 3 days? I don't know what this man has going on in his life, but apparently he needs to try to go back to looking for Rhea Ripley. But that said, he was just lying in wait for the Bloodline for 3 whole days. Then he snuck into SmackDown, where he clearly was not allowed to be. He didn't buy a ticket like Solo did, which was very smart. Nope, he somehow snuck through security, somehow had that hoodie on, and delivered those blows to the Bloodline just to cost them the match. That doesn't sound like a very Ucey thing to do. And speaking of being Ucey, it was Sami Zayn who laid down the law on Jey Uso after Jey said that he thinks that Solo is worse than Roman Reigns. You can see it, I'm speechless right here. I am speechless. Does Jey not remember that this entire thing with the Bloodline started over 4 years ago when Jey had a championship match against Roman Reigns, and Roman brutalized him so badly that he refused to pin him and was going to make Jey acknowledge him as the tribal chief for the very first time. But it took Jimmy Uso, who was quite injured at the time, to hobble down the ringside and finally throw in the towel to get Roman Reigns to stop the beatdown. And then of course, just 1 month later, in an I Quit match, inside a cell, it was Roman Reigns again brutalizing Jey Uso, where he was practically passed out and Jimmy had to come into the cell and lay on top of him to try to speak some sense into Roman, only for Reigns then to put the guillotine on Jimmy so that Jey would finally say that I quit. So Jey then had to fall in line for the next several years, and Roman did indeed test him over and over again to make sure that he remained loyal. So yeah, Sami was absolutely right that Jey had to jump through all of those hoops over the years. And of course, that's why Jey left the Bloodline after all this time. So why would he even think about even talking to Roman, let alone going back to join forces with him? And the only thing that Jey said that made sense was that he just can't understand because it's family. And I don't know much about those particular family dynamics, as Jey and Jimmy didn't even talk to each other since WrestleMania. That's a long time, guys. And of course, that means he didn't talk to Roman for much longer than that. So why would he even want to do that after Jey, again, said no yeet to helping Roman just a couple weeks ago? So now we even see that WWE has posted a 6-man tag team match with Jey and Jimmy teaming with Roman to take on the Bloodline. So Jey has already been booked into this match. So I hope when Friday comes around, Jey has come to his senses and said, nope, sorry, I'm just out of this. And if he's not able to do that because he's been booked, maybe he can just say, this is a one-time thing, we're doing this match, and then I'm out of here. I'm completely out of any of this Bloodline business. I'm going back to regaining that IC title that I shouldn't have lost in the first place. Which, again, he kind of deserved to lose because he fought the Bloodline during that match. And yeah, I know what we saw at the end of Raw was not great with Sami Zayn speaking to Solo Sikoa, but come on, we know Sami is about as smart as it gets. There's no way he's going to be on Solo's side. He was probably just leaving and Solo caught up to him, so of course Sami would just speak to him and maybe try to say, let Jey go, let them go their separate ways. Just focus your attacks on Roman as you remain the true tribal chief. So Sami, please keep talking to Jey every single week on Monday Night Raw and keep him there alone and away from SmackDown, and maybe then the two of you could become tag team champions and take them away from either the Bloodline or the War Raiders. But for now, I think Jey's starting to lose his way, but we need to try to keep him away from Roman as much as possible, so let's get Crown Jewel out of the way, and then he can go back to where he belongs on Monday Night Raw. Well, the SportsZu set up an X account for me this past week, so I guess I'm there now, and he said he wants me to use it so that we can ask you to start sending in potential questions of the week every single week at Doktor O'Kay with no apostrophe. Unfortunately, I was not allowed to use that apostrophe. So at DOKTOROKAY is where you will find me. It's right there down below. So put that with a hashtag OKQOTW. And if it's the best question of the week, we will answer it right here on this space. Otherwise, if you idiots cannot come up with a good question, I'll make sure the SportsZu still sends in a question every week. But quite frankly, I'd rather not hear from him, and I'd rather hear from you to see just what the WWE Universe is thinking. And in our new format for the Doktor O'Kay show, we now give grades for every single segment from Raw and SmackDown. So if you missed that, go right here to see their grades. And if you didn't, that would be not okay.